Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jacquie Malloy. I'm responsible for projects and communications here at Meaningful Aging Australia. And we'll start today's session, as we always do, with an acknowledgement of country. And for Marnie and I, who are here today from the Meaningful Aging Australia team, we come to you from the land of the Wurundjeri people. Wow, my mouth really got away from me there. The Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And we pay our respects to elders past and present, and also want to acknowledge the enduring spiritual resilience of our First Nations people. Right, well, on to today's topic, which is ConnecTo, all things ConnecTo. A little bit of an introduction for those who know nothing about our ConnecTo tool, a bit of a refresher if you have heard of it, and also an opportunity to ask questions if you're already familiar with it. And even if you're not, ask questions. No question too silly or too basic. That's why we run some of these information webinars on a particular resource of ours or a framework or tool that we use. So I suppose the thing to say about ConnecTo right at the start is that its official name, its official description, if you like, is that it's a spiritual screening tool. And that makes it sound all about the process and quite formal, and something that is done to someone. But if I tell you that it's actually a conversational tool that helps to discover what's most important to someone, now it already sounds a little more informal, friendly, and something that is a two-way street, because of course we've used the word conversation. The reason it is referred to as a screening tool is because that is its primary purpose in the aged care sector. It's to screen, which is to say, to thoroughly review and understand someone's spirituality. And spirituality is not just faith and religion. Spirituality is much bigger than that. It can include, obviously, faith and religion, but every single human has a spiritual component to themselves, and that is the things that they are connected to that give their life meaning and purpose and a sense of belonging. Of this is who I am, this is what fills me up, this is what is important to me to feel my whole, complete, best self. And so for that reason, ConnecTo is not just important in the sector for the older people that we care for, but also for the staff and also families. In fact, anybody and everybody can benefit from this, either by having the process kind of facilitated for them, or to be done as a self-reflective process. So with that in mind, let us kick off. I'm going to share my screen, and just for a little visual, if you know me, I'm not really a PowerPoint person, so I don't do a lot of things, but there are a couple of visual components to ConnecTo. Part of its power is that there's a visual map, so that you can kind of place yourself on where you feel most connected. And that can be a really good thing for people who are more visual. Some people like to listen and have that conversation. Some people like to have the conversation around something visual. And so the visual map of ConnecTo is very helpful for those people. So let me share my screen and we'll get started. Now, just a reminder, of course, please ask questions, make comments and observations if you know ConnecTo, and feel free to make this your session. Okay, I have to start with this beautiful image because when we think about what's important to us and what or who we're connected to, it's really important to remember that everyone can experience a sense of well-being, sometimes an overwhelming sense of well-being. I think everybody here has had an experience of this, of there's just being, you can probably think about a moment in your life today, yesterday, last month, where you have felt, even if it was just for that moment, all is good. I know myself today where it's raining here in Melbourne, and I'm delighted because I love the rain. So the rain always makes me just stop multiple times during the day just to listen to the sound of the rain, just to watch the rain outside the window. And in that moment, I am fully present. I am nowhere else. So that counts very much as a spiritual experience, right? So it's kind of taking a word that we think of as quite rarefied and quite religious and recognizing it's about human experience. So spirituality is about human experience. And so I'm thinking about this image that we're looking at, and I'm thinking about how the sun is on this man's back. You can see that from the angle, but you can see by his clothes that it's a cool day, perhaps a cool morning. And we know that feeling too, right? When it's cold, but the warmth of the sun against your back. Now he's also giving a little scritch to a sweet little cat who's also enjoying that sun. And it's just a beautiful moment. Now, would he be thinking consciously, oh, I'm having a spiritual moment? No, probably not. He's probably literally just enjoying the sun on his back and the feeling of a cat. Maybe he's looking out over the garden, thinking about what he's going to get done today. You can see that there's earth around his fingers and fingernails. So he clearly has been pottering or is a potterer. And so these are the moments that we think of. And so you can imagine then when something gets taken away from us, perhaps it's our independence, perhaps it's our mobility, perhaps it's our sight, our ability to speak, our ability to eat comfortably. These are all transitions that are entirely possible in older age. And so knowing what makes a person feel full, feel human, feel like themselves, moments in time are so important. Now, there might be someone here or someone in our community who looks at this and says, oh, can't imagine anything worse. I mean, let's just imagine, right? And that's fine. That's the importance of knowing that it's not a one size fits all. Spirituality is not a one size fits all just because every human experiences it. So ConnecTo looks at spirituality as a presentation, if you like, of 5 domains, 5 ways of experience connectedness in our life. There's connection to self, a relationship to self, and that might be, for example, contemplation. It may be related to a faith practice, doesn't have to be. It could be meditation that's not related to faith. It could be just spending time alone and just letting our thoughts wander. It could be those moments looking at the rain. Connection to others, that's often in terms of service. We see that quite a lot, people who are committed to working with others. But also there's people, I'm not going to use the words extrovert or introvert, but people who naturally enjoy feeling connected to others, feeling that social connection can be very important. And we know that the opposite of social connection can be social loneliness. There's also connection to nature. This is very strong in me. This is a very strong and present way for me to experience spirituality. And that is, it could be bushwalking, it could be watching the ocean, it could be watching a fire, it could be being with animals, it could be observing animals, it could be being entranced by the way the wind hits the leaves at a particular time of year, or the angle of light and what that makes you feel and imagine. Connection to creativity, poetry, music, crafts. I know someone very dear to me, my mother, who loves to sew, has always sewn, has been a professional dressmaker, and also just sews for pleasure. She's 87 and every day she's in the sewing room for some period of time. She has macular degeneration. Her sight is really starting to deteriorate. She needs a lot of light and magnification. She still sews. It's such an essential part of who she is, of her identity. And then we have connection to something bigger than us. And this is where faith or religion can be, and sometimes even culture, right? But it could just be a sense of, I'm small and I'm a little part of something greater. I don't know what to call the something greater. It's got nothing to do with God, for example. This may be someone thinking this. I just know there's something greater. I have a sense of something transcendental. So you can see then that if we're looking at spirituality as these 5 domains, as ConnecTo does, then that's a really interesting take on what we imagine spirituality might be. If we've thought of spirituality as being something like faith or religion, and that there's something kind of prescribed about how we express that, then this is going to feel like incredibly different, but also very freeing, right? Because it's allowed to be what makes sense to you. You may not have a connection in all of these 5 domains, and you might have a connection to one, and that's it, and that's fine. There's no right or wrong. What is interesting, though, is if you can look at these, and this is where our map comes in. So if you think about those 5 domains, you see them circling around a main center, which is self. So even though there was a connection to self, that's you're the person in the middle. So when you think about those 5 circles, and you might look at the level of connectedness. So you might say, I have a very strong connection to something bigger, right? And I call that God, for example. And I have a very strong sense of connection with others. I have no connection with self that I know of. I don't know how on earth I express that. I don't think I have a connection to self. So that's interesting, because now I might think, I wonder if I want to. I wonder what that would look like. Because, of course, we change. We're not always the same person for our whole life. There are some things fundamental to us. But we always hear stories of people who have had no faith and now want to discover faith, or have been of one faith and want to explore another, or who have always looked at the world in a particular way but now see it quite differently, have always been outward facing but now become more internal. So as we change and age, there are different relationships that might be in play in our life, not necessarily relationships with people, but just relationships with these other domains. We might look at this map, someone might look at this map and say, you know what, it used to be nature, but I haven't experienced that for a really long time. Now, that person may be experiencing what we call spiritual distress, which again sounds quite alarming. But a lack of connection can feel just like being quite flat, quite down, and not really knowing why. And if you don't know that nature was an important part, and it just happened that you were doing these things all the time, so you never really thought about it as being that special or that important. But if it's suddenly not there for whatever reason, you might feel, oh, that feels, I feel quite flat now. Don't really know what the point is. And these are all ways of kind of expressing a form of spiritual distress. So for ConnecTo, we think there's a connection that's missing. What is that connection that's missing? In an aged care setting, let's think of the most changed aged care setting, and that would be going into residential care, right? So you could receive care services in your home and still have a lot of what is normal to your life around you. Going into residential aged care for many is an incredibly traumatic transition. And for some, they take it in their stride. So, knowing what's important to you if you're going through a transition is so important, because that's going to be your anchor point. That's going to help guide you and keep you feeling your most optimistic self as well. So if someone used to be doing a lot of things in nature, let's say they lost their mobility, they're now moving into aged care, residential aged care, but no one knows about this connection with nature. All they'll see is someone who's perhaps not handling the transition well, who feels quite lost, who feels quite down, who can't see and be optimistic about what's next. But if we know through this screening tool, right, if we discover the importance of this, or the fact that it has been important, but it's not able to be experienced in the same way anymore, now we have staff with knowledge who can look at this and go, right, we need to discover how to bring this back, this experience back. And that might be done through photographs, through soundscapes, through having access to a particular type of window and view. There may be trips that can be taken. There can be time in the garden every day, right? These sound like little things, but if we have the map of the person, if we have the understanding, then we know some of the ways to address those feelings of, I don't really know why. And so we can do that for ourselves as well. We always have this time, every time we run a workshop on ConnecTo, where someone who's learning how to use ConnecTo in order to go back to their organisation and use it with older people, there's always a time when one of those staff will be in the workshop, and while learning about it, they also do it for themselves, and they have this sudden realisation, oh my God, I haven't done that for so long. No, I've missed it. That's what I need to do. I'm going to do it this weekend. There's always people having light bulbs like, oh, now I get why this thing I used to do every week but don't do anymore, why it was so important. Because I was thinking of it in terms of being an activity, but in actual fact, it was an expression of my spirituality. It was something that filled me up and made me feel good. We've got I've got something in the chat. What is LMS? Says James. James, oh, that was from the previous page. Hello, James, by the way. Hello. LMS is a learning management system. So the great thing about ConnecTo, how do I get out of this? Me with technology. I was going to go back to the page before. The great thing about ConnecTo is it can be used, as I said, conversationally, literally, with a piece of paper that's kind of got the map. You can't see this. There we go. You can, I should take it out of the plastic. It's always on my desk, this. Oh, here we go. Can we see that? Anyway, it's a piece of paper. Guys, it's a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper with the map on and some basic questions. So it can be literally done by hand and photocopied or now I can't think of the word, when you upload it electronically. Scan it, thank you, into a system. You can also have it on an LMS, which can be, it means that people, your staff, can actually access it as a tool to learn and go through, so that it's always there. And a sort of little bit like a system that's, I hope this is making sense. A system that's kind of like a very big website. I'm really just trying to lowball it here. I don't know if that helps. You know, you've also got your systems for admissions. This is the other place that we see ConnecTo used a lot, is at the admission level. And you can go through some of these questions during that time, not necessarily on day one, which is already sort of emotionally very overwhelming, but most organizations, you know, there are things that are done over that first week in terms of collecting information and also setting up relationship. Learning management system, yes. I hope that went some way to answering it. Anyway, thank you. Okay, so we also have in our stable the next version of ConnecTo, which is Connect Explore. So ConnecTo, as I said, is a screening tool. It's that way of understanding what's most important to someone, the visual map. Connect Explore is for those individuals, those older people who realize they would like to kind of reflect more on this. They would like an opportunity to sort of mine themselves and learn more about themselves. And so what Connect Explore does, because we know that this cohort of all humans is the one most likely to want to reflect on big questions around life. And has it been a good life? Have I done my best? What's next? Do I care? Or, you know, really the kinds of questions that a lot of people think about, by the way, not just this cohort, but it's more likely that that this cohort on average will be thinking about these questions. And so Connect Explore provides the conversational prompts to maintain an older person in that flow so that they can hear themselves express concerns, what's important, and it's non-faith based. And so that's very helpful if people, for whatever reason, have defense or a misunderstanding about a religious representative. James says, I was kind of hoping it might be an app or something I can add to on my computer, but scanning a piece of paper. Yeah, it just sort of depends on what sort of the breadth of the organization. I'm really happy, James, for us to set up a time to chat about that. And we haven't chatted for a while, so that might be good anyway. And I can talk you through some other options of how it's used in other places that might help sort of get a bit of an understanding. The link for Connect Explore, so we don't actually have something as worked up as ConnecTo, but we do have the academic research that's been pulled together by Laurie Leopard and our lovely Ilse Hampton, who many of you will know and remember. And Marnie's going to put that in the chat, the link to just looking at the time. The link to Connect Explore, really fascinating, and you'll see lots of stories that have been shared by the people who took part in the project. So that's really good. The other thing is, so I can see Connect Explore is there. Then we've got the actual book around ConnecTo. It's the Leader's Guide. So that's what you're seeing. Oh, this one comes up all right, doesn't it? So this was on. This is also a link to this resource on our website, is in the chat. This isn't something that we'd recommend for consumers. There is information on the website, but this guide is more for someone or an organization, someone working alongside older people and the organization that they work for. So the link to that is also in the chat. Right. I don't know why oh, there it was. And then we have a workshop, and the link will also be in the chat. This is our introduction to ConnecTo. This is open for everybody. If you are staff in an organization or even an independent practitioner, you will get a lot of from this. If you are a consumer, if you are an older person yourself or a younger person and you're just interested, you too can come, because this will be a very much expanded version of what you've heard me talk about. I don't lead the workshop, so if you had trouble today, it's not going to be me. It's going to be the beautiful Gillian Schultz, who's a terrific facilitator and is all over ConnecTo. I highly recommend that. We've actually got 2 dates, but the one that we're going to share with you in the link is for Monday, the 6th of November. That's the next one coming up. So the cost for this, James, I believe, I'm going to get Marnie to double check this, but I think it's like, is it $70? Marnie? 72 for members. So James, it would be 72. $80.72 for members. Yep. So now I know it's $129 already. Boom, just like that. That's all that I had to share with you in terms of, why is my, I'm not having good luck here today with my, there we go. Stop, stop. That's right. It's like we're just cracking the code on technology here. Really, I'm a master at technology. I'm just doing it to make everyone feel, comfortable. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. As I said, it's $129. Recognize that people have places to be, but I'm very happy to stay for any questions or comments that you might have. Thank you, Hannah. Nice to have you here from New Zealand. Go well. It's really terrific, though. You can see why we love it, I think. I hope that you've enjoyed learning a little bit about it if it was new to you. Thank you, everybody.